goes down or your tax deduction reduces. If there is a problem with your W-2, so let's say your name is incorrect or the social security is not correct or something is not correct, then what you do is you request for a W-2C, which is a corrected W-2, so that your errors are corrected, and then you can use that to submit you can use that to file your tax. And then for the employees, basically there is normally itemized versus standard deduction. So standard deduction is normally what the IRS or the government gives you based on your income. It applies to, basically covers all expenses you could have incurred, let's say mortgage interest, or let's say your local state tax, both for land or your property or even sales tax. So rather than having a cumbersome system of trying to collect all the receipts and to know exactly how much you collected, how much you paid in terms of taxes, the government allows you to do a standard deduction. So this basically is still covering the W-2 employer obligations. Employer is supposed to give you the W-2 by January 31st of the following year, and they're also supposed to remit the tax which they collect from you using the form 941 quarterly or annually to the IRS. So when they file that report, it tells them how much they have collected and how much they have remitted, so that in case there is a shortfall between what they collected from you and what they remitted to the IRS, then it basically details for them how much to pay and if there is any penalties at that point. So 1099 basically is a contractor, a self-employment individual who is not working as per se for a particular employer. The employer does not determine how this person works or does not provide the tools for this person to work. It is important to classify a 1099 contractor correctly, because if the IRS feels that you have, let's say, control over this individual who is performing the job, then basically what you are not doing is you're not withholding the tax at that time. So there are certain requirements or certain details or certain checkboxes which the IRS uses to understand whether a person is an employer or is employee or a contractor. Now when you are a 1099,
Assalamu alaikum. This is an open Q&A, so anytime you guys have questions, feel free to raise your hand and we'll answer the questions. Thank you.
So if you are a 1099, and if there is no employer who is not deducting tax, that doesn't mean that the IRS doesn't need their money. What you have to do is you have to make a quarterly payment based on the amount you have received, minus the deductions you feel that you may have at the end of the year. So that reduces your quarterly payments. Basically what you do is you make quarterly payments on the 20th of the end of the quarter. So let's say April 20th or June 20th, based on what you feel you have earned. Failure to do that, what happens is normally when you're doing the year-end taxes, there will be, if there's a tax assessed, then there is a penalty for that because you do not remit the quarterly payments as required. Key deductions for a 1099 contractor are home office. Basically you have set some as area for home office, so you can deduct the expenses relating to that in terms of utilities, in terms of rent you paid. so that reduces your, that is actually counted as a business expense. Also what you have is vehicle expenses. So let's say you're using your vehicle, let's say for Uber, then you can deduct those expenses which you incur in terms of the mileage driven to deduct as an expense. Same for depreciation. So let's say you're using your vehicle and that's been solely used or mostly used for the business, for your 1099, you can deduct depreciation. So again, that reduces your overall tax obligations. And then you have per diem for travel expenses. So let's say you travel out of city. So from here you go to Austin, then what IRS has done is they have, rather than you maintaining the receipts of your lodging or your Airbnb or your meals, they allow you to deduct a certain amount as a blanket for that trip. Now, in terms of S corporations, we have, these are pass-through corporations, meaning they are not taxed by themselves, but what they are is the profits passed on to their members. So the members are the ones who are taxed based on the dividends they collect from the S corporation. Sorry, not the dividend, but actually the profits. So dividends is not taxed at that point because the profit has already been taxed. So when you collect a dividend from your S corporation, it is not taxed at that point. So the S corporation eligibility is up to 100 US shareholders. All need to be US citizens or residents. Limited liability. Now that means that the liability of that organization is different. There is a veil between the organization and the individuals participating in that or members of that organization. So the members are not basically liable for the liabilities of the company. You have to file certain documents, like you have to register with the state of Texas, for example, to form this organization, and at that point you define your structure as an LLC. And then what you do is, let's say you are even single member person, you can form an S corp, but what you do at that point, you get your EIN from the IRS. Subsequent to that, you file form 24553 and you tell the IRS that I want to be taxed as an S corp, and the IRS does that for you. Key deductions are reasonable salary for owner employees. So basically S corp requires members to collect a salary because no one works free. So that salary helps you, number one, to basically reduce your tax liability as an individual, and it also helps you to maintain good structure. So let's say you are taking a salary from your S corp, then what you could do is you can enlist, or you could register, or you could open an IRA account, a SEP IRA account, where both the S corp and you can contribute up to a certain amount per year, and that is not taxed on both the organization as well as you. Again, the home office and the business expenses and depreciation, those are similar to the 1099s. The C Corp is a separate legal entity, again with its own tax return. Now, at this point, there is double taxation because both the corporate earnings and the dividends are taxed separately. So the corporate earnings for a C Corp are taxed, as well as the dividends passed on to the members are taxed. Now, when you are filing your tax, at that point you basically give IRS the documentation that this was already taxed at that dividend level, so that reduces your tax liability as an individual at the end of the year. Again, the deductions are normally the same for most organizations. Now, self-employed is where it's unincorporated. The main difference here is that there is no veil of liability or veil between you and the organization. So the owner and the business are treated as one. Now, sometimes what happens is you could form an S Corp by yourself at home, but what you're doing is you're not differentiating your expenses from the company expenses, or you do not have a separate business account from your personal account, and that basically marks the veil between you and the company. So the IRS or basically your creditors could easily pierce that if you do not maintain those separate records. But again, you could still use you could still claim key deductions in terms of home office, vehicle expenses, depreciation for your self-employed sole proprietorship business. Hobby activities are, just as the name defines, activities pursued mainly for personal pleasure. So let's say you are doing something, and what you want to do is you are actually with the intention that this is a business for me. Now what the IRS does is they allow you up to a certain amount or a certain year, maybe 1 year or 2 years, to go without earning any income. However, if after 3 years or after a certain time they see that you are not earning any income and just incurring expenses, then what happens is they start treating that as a hobby expense, hobby activity, and they disallow the expenses which you are incurring for that activity. So the additional tax concepts in terms of credits, depreciation and home office rules are as defined earlier: earned income tax credits, depreciation, home office deductions, and your vehicle expenses. So basically whatever you use to generate the income are covered by depreciation, home office expenses and vehicle expenses. Those are expenses you incur solely to generate revenue. That is why they are allowed as an expense. Now in terms of, as we discussed earlier, between a standard deduction and a line item deduction, you have to make a choice of what you want to use, whether you want to itemize your deductions or whether you want to get a standard deduction. So it depends on, for example, Texas has no local income tax, so it's easier for us not to use itemized deduction. It's easier to use a standard deduction because we do not have local income tax. But let's say for California, they have state income tax, so they have to claim that back when they are filing their tax returns. So it may be prudent at that point, or it may be beneficial for them to use a line itemized deductions. SALT cap, basically those are, SALT means the state taxes in terms of your property taxes, in terms of whatever sales tax you pay. So that is capped at 10,000. So if you incur any expenses up to 10,000 in terms of sales tax or in terms of state taxes, then you can claim up to 10,000, even if it's more than that. Yeah, so that covers that. Now that was mostly for personal and small business organizations. I don't know if you have any questions, because we can then move on to the business structures. Yes, sir.
So for 1099 contractors, how much percent we have to pay every quarter advance tax?
So it depends on what you feel is right. There is no percentage as such, but let's say you have let's say income of 100,000. So, and you think that at the end of the year you'll have a net income of 100,000. So it's better to pay the tax on 25% of that. So 25,000, you deduct, you do a calculation of tax on the 25,000. So basically what you're doing is you're projecting that my net profit at the end of the year, my net income will be this, and then you divide that by 4, and then you pay tax on that. Another way is, let's say you did tax last year, 1099, then and you paid installment taxes, or you were supposed to pay installment taxes, let's say up to $10,000 you were supposed to pay taxes. What you do is you multiply that by 1.1, so and then you divide that by 4, and then you pay that. So at that point you have taken a calculated method to calculate your estimated taxes.
One more question. So I have a company Escort, and I'm working for W2 as well. So can I still open an IRA account on the company name?
Yes, you can.
And how much I can?
So the total for both the company and the employee is up to 69,000. So it depends on what kind of, again, it depends on the kind of IRA account you open, because there's SEP IRA, there's other kinds of IRAs. SEP meaning, I think it's self-employed. So you can, the total contribution can be up to 69,000. So the company can contribute up to a certain extent, and then you can contribute up to a certain extent.
So the limit is 13,000 something, right?
13,500, yes, but that's for individual. But the total, both the company and that, you can go up to 69.
Any questions on the sister side?
Any questions?
You said about the hobbies, if you start going negative, that it's something you can deduct. Is that, like, say if you have a personal hobby, you're losing 5,000, 10,000, then you can deduct it from your taxes, like your overall income?
Yes, but again, so as a what you have to be is you have to be careful that you. It's just not a hobby you're doing. So hobby is what IRS will define it if you are not earning in money. So basically, what you have to do is you have to have a business plan. That my business plan is to do this and to eventually earn money on this. So basically, what you're doing is you will earn money. You are treating it as a business activity and not as a hobby. You have a plan in place to eventually make money from that, so that the IRS does not treat it as a hobby. Because once they treat it as a hobby, then they disallow the expenses.
So do you recommend any websites for filing the taxes? IRS is the one that we need to go put our information, or how would we work?
Yeah, so I think Sister Mauna, she'll be showing that. She can help us on that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
I'm saying if we need to file the taxes, any website like the website name? IRS is one, I know.
Free Tax USA, that's the one I'm going to be doing the demo for today. It's
Okay.
completely free,
Okay.
and you can file your personal taxes on
Free
it.
Tax USA?
Free Tax USA, yes. There's also another one where there is going to be doing after that called Tax Act. So we have two available, but my personal favorite is Free Tax USA.
And regardless of the options, we can file in that website, right?
Yes. Well, what do you mean regardless of?
So W-2s and rentals and everything?
Yes, they
It can
do.
accommodate everything?
The Free Tax USA, I know for sure. I'm familiar with that one, so I can answer any questions about that one. That one I know you can. About Tax Act, you would have to ask our brother. He knows a little bit more about that one.
Yes, so for Tax Act, what they do is if it's simple, W2, then it's free. But obviously, they'll try to sell you upsell services.
For any additional form?
Yeah, even if it's W2, they'll try to upsell audit protection and all that as you progress. So it's upon you to make a decision whether you want that, or if it's simple W2, then it's.
So do they any work for us? Do they verify the data, or how?
No, they don't. They don't verify at that point. I mean, in the background, they have some checks, already preset checks, which they conduct to make sure. For example, let's say your employer submits your W2 via TurboTax or Tax Act software, so that you can import directly, and they check those controls to make sure that what you're filing is correct up to a certain extent. I think for that you have to. I think for that you have to pay. Yeah. I'm not sure, but I think we'll check.
I think on the free filing websites, what happens is that is to charge you for record keeping. So it's like if you want to download the records from next year or rest of that, they will charge you for that. The filing itself is free, but for record keeping they will still charge you.
So is it recommended to keep our record of that?
Meaning that you have a form where you want to bring it back for your own records later on. Yeah, yeah. A little nominal charge, I think, no.
You can always print it out.
Yeah,
Email it to yourself, you can print it out.
Yes.
Question. Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome.
In regard to trust, will you be going over anything about that, or is that something separate that we're going to?
That's actually separate.
I know it's a different.
Yeah, that's separate. Because again, there are different kind of trusts, revocable and whatnot. So that's a bit more complex in terms of organization. Yeah.
So I want to thank Brother Amin for the educational slides. Thank you so much for taking the time.
So we can hear you on the live stream.
Thank you so much, Brother Amin, for wonderful educational slides. Now I'd like to invite Sister Mauna to do the live demo. This is regarding personal/individual tax filing. She's going to use Free Tax USA to conduct the live demo. It's an open live demo, so feel free to ask questions during any time during the demo. Thank you, Sister Mauna.
Do I need to hold this?
No.
So they can hear me? Okay. Well, with this? Oh, how do I?
Oh, and the Wi-Fi.
Oh, yes.
And if you'd like to connect to the Wi-Fi, it's open Wi-Fi for today. These are the two Wi-Fi networks.
Masjid guest.
Yeah, it's Masjid Guest and Masjid Guest 5G.
Did anybody bring their stuff today to file? Like, are you trying to file? You have your documents, so you're trying to file? Yes. Okay, I was just curious. Okay. Inshallah, at the end, if you have any questions after the demo, if you're so confused or whatever, I'll be more than happy to help you, inshallah. Just give me a couple minutes. I have to. So what I did, and what I would suggest you guys do also while we do this, is to set up your account for Free Tax USA if that's the one you're going to use, because that's what I'm going to do. I purposely didn't set up a dummy account so that I could show you how to set up an account, and it's very easy. One of the things that I like about this program is someone who I used to do taxes, not on like as a CPA, but on a different level, so I got educated about taxes, collections, and things like that. One thing that I like about this website. Oh yeah, this. Do I put it on my head?
Yeah, you can just put it.
Like that?
Yeah, that's better.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Okay, sorry. One of the things that I like about this website specifically, and why I've continued to use it since 2008, is that it's very user-friendly, and I encourage even my family and friends to use it, but they still always come to me and make me do it anyway. But it's very, very easy. You don't have to be educated in taxes. You don't have to know a lot. It walks you through it, and it guides you on what to do. Like Brother Amin was saying, some of the things, they can catch some of the mistakes. For instance, if you put that you're single but you have dependents, you're going to get an alert that says, hey, you qualify for head of household. So little things like that, but other than that, it's really going to be on you to make sure that you're putting the correct information to get the correct outcome. Because if not, it might go through to the IRS, and the IRS might catch it, and you'll get something like a bill or something if something was wrong. For instance, myself, before I had a, sorry, I can't multitask. Personally, I want to say back in like, I don't know, 2010 or something like that, I had taken a withdrawal from my 401k and I didn't get the 1099 in time, so I didn't report that income. Well, the IRS, they got it, so I got a bill and I got something that said, hey, you didn't report all your income. So it's really important to make sure you have all of your documents before you decide to file whatever W-2s, 1099s, whatever. Free tax.com. Okay. Yes.
Which one is better? Is this better than HR block?
Actually, Bushra can come tell us all about H&R Block while I get this set up real quick. Because this H&R Block is one of the reasons why we are doing this. Okay.
Just hold on.
Yeah, sorry. Can you repeat your question?
H&R Block. Can you just give him the spiel about why we're not using H&R Block?
Yeah, so actually this is inspired from an article that talks about how big tax infringe on our rights and they lobby the Congress. So these two websites that we're using as resources today, they are ethical. They do not lobby the Congress against IRS or anything like that. This is why we are gonna use them to demo, and we want our community to use ethical resources to file their taxes as well. Does that answer your question?
So this
the
is
big
better than
tax-
H&R Block.
Yeah, so for the big tax, we don't want to name any companies, but the mainstream big tax companies that you are all familiar with, they do the lobbying. So whereas these two resources, they do not do that. So as Muslims, it is our responsibility to use ethical websites. So this is why we are educating our community regarding those two websites.
Thank you.
What's the technicality of the website themselves? So is this better than HR block or pretty much the same?
This is completely free. They work very similarly. Anytime you run into anything on H&R Block, they want you to have hire professionals, and where they ask you to pay money. Whereas this is completely free. Tax Act, brother. I mean, do you wanna talk?
Yeah, just
Okay.
hold on. So basically what HR Block and every organization does is they train people and then they have these set rules. Because what all they do is they take the tax law and put in the blanks and people fill it in. So even when you go there, what they are doing is they're just filling in the blanks, but they're importing the stuff. So what the sisters are doing is they are actually empowering you to do that on your own, so that you don't rely on HR Block. So you are doing similar, whatever HR Block will do, and you're actually saving money and you're doing it by yourself, and you can help others do that.
How about TurboTax? There are so many TurboTax is kind of like available, I guess, in one, right?
Yeah, so like I said, it's all big tax. So all the big tax companies, without naming anything specifically, that we are all familiar with, that I've personally also used for years. But with the recent, like the last few years, things that are happening, we want to have alternative to something that is better for the community. So this is why we're not, we don't want to name big tax companies, but yeah, we want to have better alternatives for our community.
Any other questions? Okay, so
Another will not affect anything like tax-wise, technical, everything will remain same.
yes, they all offer the same. Yeah, they do. All of those, they offer the same services as far as to, get the taxes filed. So.
One more question.
Yeah. Sure.
Where can we find that article that talked about the big tax companies?
That's a really good question.
This was a while ago, but I can send it over. If you give me your number, I'll send it over. Yeah, or we can. Yeah, my brother can send it. Yep.
Okay, so if you are setting up your account, you would start here at freetaxusa.com, and you're going to click on Start 2024 Return. This will ask you to either sign in or sign up. So this is the first time, obviously we're going to be signing up. Create a new account. And forgive me because I have to use a different email than my normal one. My purse, please. Thank you. Yes, at the front part. Sorry, in the front part. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, this is not gonna work. Okay. It's at Gmail? I don't understand what the problem is. Oh, there we go. Okay. It's good to put a phone number because if you do that, when you file your tax return, when you submit it to the IRS, they will send you a text message that says if it was rejected or accepted. Oh, sorry. And once you hit create account, it usually sends you a code, I believe. Oh, they sent one to my phone too. It's okay. How are you guys feeling about your taxes? I'll put overwhelmed on here. Okay. Right, yeah, no, inshallah you won't have to pay anybody, especially if it's simple. If you, and I think this was mentioned, if you have a business, an S Corp, and it's a little complicated, it's worth it to pay someone to not, but if not, it's worth it to just do it on your own instead of, paying someone else to do it. But I'm glad that it stopped here because that's a good, for me, because I've been using this since 2008, I don't have to worry, I have all my tax returns in one place since 2008. I can just go back and put previous returns. But since this is your first time using it, if you have access to your 2023 tax return, it will be really helpful and beneficial if you're able to upload it using one of these things. If you file through an online service or if you have a copy of it, it'll allow you to upload it. If not, it's not a big deal. And going forward, it'll have your information so that next year, inshallah, it'll just be easier for you to file, have your name, your, just everything, social and stuff. I'm sorry, do you have a question?
Yeah, so basically use different website. Sorry about that.
No worries.
You upload your old taxes and you just upload them to free tax, basically.
Yes, and so they'll already just like have everything, address and all that good stuff. Let's see. All right.
So you're saying if it's a different service, it'll automatically integrate in it, or?
You might be able to. So like, let's go back. I've never used this option for myself because I've been using it so long. But if you remember on the previous page, it said, hold on. I messed up. Now I just have to sign in. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so basically, what happens is nowadays, because of the AI and the OCR recognition, the moment you have a PDF of your previous return, you just upload it here and it starts recognizing the information. So it will pre-fill most of the information for you.
using OCR.
You see, so it says import 2023 tax return. Let's click on that and see. Let's say you filed with another service. Okay, so it looks like you can, if you have the file, the actual file on your computer, you can go and you can drop it. You guys see that here? You can just drop the file here. And once you do that, it'll, you know, input all your information. But I'm gonna skip since I don't have that option. And I'll just set up an account. This is all self-explanatory. She thought I was gonna put my social. That wouldn't help anybody. Walaikum salam.
I did TurboTax and I got a rejection on the TurboTax. So, I mean, could I file, do I need to correct that or could I like, disregard that and then file the free taxes or what?
You can do that. You can disregard that one since it didn't go. It's like it never happened and just reuse this service. Yeah, you're welcome.
Can you file for previous years?
That's a really good question. So the answer is yes, but you can't e-file. So let's say you didn't file your 2023, you can still use Free Tax USA. You're gonna go in and fill everything out and it's gonna prepare your return for you to print and mail to the IRS. Because e-filing is not allowed for previous years. But this will do all the work for you. Type in the numbers, it makes the return and all the forms, you print it and you mail it out.
So then if you put your zip code in, it automatically figures out the state.
Oh yeah, most of them are like that, yeah. I hope this doesn't flag me because I made up a whole bunch of stuff, Dallas and yeah. You always want to make sure that your social is correct because that is one of the reasons why it'll be rejected. And also something is if you receive a W-2 or a 1099, you always want to make sure your social is correct on that form before you file. In the event that it's not, you need to contact your employer before you file your tax return so they can correct it, or else it's just going to be delayed. It's going to be like an issue with the IRS because the IRS isn't going to have your social security number with the income that you actually made. Does anybody have any questions about filing statuses or?
So, married file separately versus jointly also. When it is applicable, like when can we do separate and when can we do joint married?
So that is more of a CPA question, but I can tell you from just what I know. Married filing joint usually gives you the better tax benefit. When you file married filing separate, you pay a higher tax rate. That's one thing that I know for sure, that they tax you higher when you're married and you choose to file separate than if you're married and you choose to file together. But did you want to tell, you're the expert.
Yeah, I mean, that's correct in most cases. However, there are some cases where, let's say the spouse is living in some other state, then there are certain considerations you go to married filing separately.
Oh man, I should have put I was single so I didn't have to fill this out. Let's go do that. And you can, if you notice here at the top, so it's going to take you through what's important, but if you need to go back or you need to make any changes, you can just go to the tab. You see all these tabs: personal, income, deductions, miscellaneous, summary. If you need to make any changes, you could just go up here. Like I'm going to go back and say that I'm single, so I don't have to type in more information. Oh wait, I should have showed you guys that. Let's go back. Oh, it's probably not going to do it. Sometimes it might come up again. We'll get some alerts. They'll alert you about certain things. Just because they alert you doesn't necessarily mean there's a problem. Just make sure you read the alert and see what it says. Yes, sister. Do they have income?
Sister, can you repeat the questions?
Oh, yes. So our sister asked if she took care of her parents, can she claim them on her tax return, or do they have to file separate? I know, but it's better to get it from me.
So yeah, if she's taking care of them and she's incurring most of the expenses for them, then she can claim them as dependents.
And when they file their tax return, because if they have income and they have a filing requirement, there's an option, and I think we'll get to it here, that it's going to ask you, can someone else claim you? And they're going to need to put yes if you're claiming them. But inshallah, we'll have it here. So if they have a filing requirement, so if they have income and the IRS says you have a filing requirement, they are going to need to file. But you can still claim them, they just have to indicate on their tax return that they're being claimed by somebody else. Does that make sense? Kinda. Inshallah, yeah. Let me know. Hopefully I think that is a question that is coming up. Let's see. Okay. You see, so they ask you if you want deluxe, if you want support, that's always an option. I never have done it. Oh, when we get to, did we do dependents already? Okay, yeah, I think I skipped over it. Okay. So yes, do you have any dependents or qualifying children? So at this part is where you would add, in your dependents or your parents. They even have some frequently asked questions here. Oh, that's another thing I did want to show you guys also. This search button is really helpful. You can ask questions here about like, can I claim my parents? Let's see. So what if my parents claim me as a dependent? Can my parents or somebody else claim me as a dependent on their tax return? You see, I don't really want to go through the, for the sake of time, all the answers, but I mean, if you have a question, I would start here first before you go to Google or something, because they do have a lot of frequently asked questions on here. So let's go through with adding a dependent. Let's see. Give me somebody's mom's name. No? Fake name then. Okay, Michelle. Michelle what? Obama. Okay. When was she born?
1962.
That seems like a long time ago for you, isn't it? It's not that long ago. Okay, and let's put parent. That's just double checking the cell phone, social, not the cell phone number, the social. And here are the questions that you're going to want to pay attention to. So, did Michelle live with you in the United States all of 2024? Are they disabled? Did they provide more than half of their own living expenses? For you in this situation, probably for your parents, you're going to put no. Are they married? Yes. Are they filing a joint return? Let's just say yes. Okay, see, so it's asking, did she make more than $5,050 during 2024? So let's see. So it tells us right here, that's another reason why I love this. So unfortunately, Michelle doesn't qualify as your dependent. If you think Michelle should qualify as your dependent, edit their information. If the information you entered is correct, delete them from your return. So based off of this, making more than $5,000, she has to file her own and you can't claim her. So we're going to delete Michelle.
Does the dependent have to be human? I know a lot of people spend a lot of money on their pets.
I've heard of people claiming their pets too. I don't know the outcome, but I know it's illegal. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to go to the income. Yes? Do you have an arrangement with another parent?
Like, for example, if you file marriage, file separately, and you're claiming your kids as a dependent, and then you ask your question, do you have an arrangement with your, like, for example, with Fatima's other parents saying who can clean her? You would say yes or no?
So if you're separate, you have to discuss that with the other parent. And, and if it's okay, then yeah, you just indicate yes, yeah. If,
Sister, for the live stream, can we just repeat the question, please?
yes, sorry, thank you for reminding me. So sister asked if she can claim her son or daughter if, say it again? Is there an age limit?
Yeah, basically there is an age limit. I believe it's 21. If I'm not wrong.
24?
24?
I think it's 24.
24.
It might be.
And there's also a limit in terms of income. So let's say if you're not paying all their expenses, or as the question asked, are you paying 50% of their living expenses, then you can't claim as dependents because they're earning more than they need at that point. So it depends on age, it depends on how much they're earning, it depends on whether they're full-time students. So quite a few considerations, and once you fill in those questions, like how Sister Mauna did for the parents, then it should tell you whether you can claim them as dependents or not.
Yeah, it'll guide you to, you know, what to do the right thing. Yes. Sure. They don't even ask for it here. It's good to keep it in case the IRS asks you for it, but this website doesn't ask you for the, at least for the donations that I've made, I've never been asked to provide documentation. Oh, when you take the itemized deduction?
Yeah, when you take itemized deductions, that's the time you put donations there. Otherwise, it's all standard deduction.
Well, one thing I noticed about Free Tax USA is it's gonna have you do both. It's gonna have you fill out the itemized, like you have the option, and they're gonna give you whichever is best. So if you fill out, say, I wanna do itemized deductions, and so you do your medical bills and your donations and your taxes, your property taxes and all that, but the standard is better, it's gonna say, hey, what do you wanna do? Do you wanna do this one, or do you wanna do what? It's gonna let you know. So it's good for this to put that information if you have it, because it will do that comparison for you. Your health insurance doesn't usually show up on your W-2. The only time they ask for proof of health insurance on your tax return is if you have Obamacare. So if you are insured through something else, you just have to indicate that, and then you're good. Any other questions before I move on to the income portion? Okay. So I didn't think this one through, guys, because I don't have a fake W-2, but we can just go through the, oh, this is another thing that I love. If you have your W-2, you can take a picture of it, and then it'll fill it out. So, let's see. Like if you take a picture, it gives you a code that you scan, and then you would just take it on your phone and then it uploads it. So I just wanted to show you guys that, but let me see. I don't have one, so we're just gonna make up some information. Is everyone familiar with the W-2 and the items on the W-2, or should I go over them? And I don't mind, I just don't wanna waste your time either. Are you familiar with the W-2s, the items on the W-2, or think we can, okay. So I'm getting a lot of yeses. If you need me to, I will, so just speak up. But it's pretty self-explanatory. Your employers or employees, so be you, your social, your address, and then it's gonna ask for your employer's information, and it's gonna ask for your federal tax information. If you've lived in Texas for a while, you know we don't have state tax returns, so there will be boxes here to put your state wages and your state, and you'll just leave that blank. This program is going to ask you about, they're going to say, hey, you didn't put any state taxes down, is it okay? And you're just going to bypass that, because again, we're in Texas. Yes?
Speaking of Texas and states, if we moved from California, we lived there like up until February, then came here and started working, how can we file do we have to file for both states, or does it have to be one state or the other?
So if you had lived in 2 states throughout the year that required filing, you would file 2 state tax returns. But you're lucky because you came to a state that doesn't have one. So you would only have to file for California from the 2 months that you were there, a state tax return. You can prepare that here on this
corporate company, so to speak. I just transferred over to Texas for those 2 months.
Okay, so the brother asked a question that he moved from California. He worked 2 months in California and then he moved over to Texas. So does he need to file a separate state tax for California? That's the question?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically what you will have is in your W-2, you will have state tax there, which you will enter into the program. And if, yes, you will file a separate one just for California, state tax. But your cumulative W-2 will be one most likely, and that will show the amount of tax which was paid to California state.
Sorry, I don't have much energy to make stuff up. I'm fasting, I'm tired, so I'm just gonna put fake stuff in here. All right. W-2s are pretty simple. It is gonna ask you, what did you say? You enter, which isn't a valid state of Iowa. Okay, so let me put the state of Texas. I'm sorry, so W-2s are pretty common, but if you have other incomes from like 1099s, you can also indicate that on here. Let me show you. Okay. Yeah. Those are actually important things that you should pay attention to if you're filing yours, but because we're making stuff up, I'm not gonna worry about it. Okay, so from this page here, they're not gonna go through each one, but if any of these apply to you, you can click on them. So if you have investments or savings income from a 1099 INT or DIV, you can put it here. The unemployment compensation form 1099-G, start here. So it has the most common types of other income that you have, and you just start and you would fill out that information. As you can see down here, it starts talking about business income, so Schedule C, partnerships, all that, you can start that here. And then other uncommon types of income, taxable scholarships, gambling income, we shouldn't have any of that. And yeah, that's it. Any questions about these other kinds of income before I move on?
I think you are a little bit fast.
I'm going too fast? Thank you for letting me know. Oh, because you're trying to understand. So we're not going to wait for everyone to get through, but I can help you, and if you need, I'll stay and help, inshallah. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions? Okay. All right, we're almost done here. Kinda. Cryptocurrency. Has anybody dealt with cryptocurrency? This is for my own personal knowledge. Is anybody familiar with cryptocurrency? No? Me either. Okay. Is it? Yeah, I don't get it, and so. Yeah. Not worth it, not worth the. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so this is what I was talking about with the deductions. So see, it has, if you're a homeowner, make a donation, out of pocket, like this, you can fill out all these things if you have that information, and then at the end it's gonna tell you whether your itemized deductions are better or the standard deduction is better, whichever is gonna give you the best benefit. It's gonna make that decision for you, or it'll ask you, do you wanna do this? See, it says the standard deduction is best because I didn't indicate anything. But let's just go back and do, since someone asked about the donations. So if you made a donation, donations to charity. So it's asking for the total amount of cash. Let's say you donated $5,000. Did you contribute more than $500 worth of non-cash donations? Let's just say yes. Volunteers can get mileage? I didn't know. Okay, never mind. To use the standard.
I have a question
Yes,
about
ma'am.
donations.
Yes, ma'am.
So some companies offer like a company match, and then I had an idea because my company used to, but then I changed, and then I had a friend who had like the company match, and I was thinking, what if I just like paid them, and then they did the donation, and then they got the company match? Is that illegal?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if that's illegal, but if you did do it, I wouldn't claim that on your taxes because it went through someone else. You know what I mean? Yeah, it would have their name on it. So either way, I wouldn't claim it. But as far as the legality of it, I can't say one way or the other. Charitable organizations. Let's see. Okay, so this was, let me go back. This was saying to enter the charitable organization if you, let's see. You only need to enter a charitable organization if you made a non-cash donation to them. Enter your donation by cash or check on the donations charity screen. So since we indicated that we did, I'm just gonna fill this out and we'll just put Masjid. I used to live in Dallas, so that's why I put all the Dallas stuff.
Tap the letter T twice to pull up Texas.
Thanks. I thought it was gonna let me enter it. Oh, here it is.
I wonder if it's worth the deduction if I threw it like that.
Right, it's usually not because they don't give you much, but I'm glad that I did this because this is an example of the kind of alerts that you'll get. So I tried to go through and then I didn't fill it out properly and it's like, no, the explanation is missing. You need to fix it or you can't go forward. So those are, pay attention to, things like that. I just have to put an explanation. Yeah, they were just looking for some words in there. And again, the reason it made me fill all that stuff is because I put that it was to a charitable organization. You don't have to indicate that. You can just put I donated, $100, $1,000, whatever, and you don't have to do all that stuff. It just depends on, what you indicate. Okay. Let's see. Oh, look. This is perfect. So this is here. It's showing you. You can take the standard deduction, which is the 14,000, or the 3,000, which is what I would get from my donations, because that's the only thing. And of course, you want to go with the best one, so you want to go with the 14,000, but you do have the option, if you wanted to go with the smaller deduction and pay more taxes, because maybe there's people that want to do that. I don't know. Does anybody have health insurance from the marketplace here?
Yes.
Okay, so but you've already tried to file, so you know that you have to have that form. Yeah, anybody, if you do get insurance from Obamacare, the marketplace, you cannot file your taxes without that form. It won't let you. And if you need to get the form, you can get it off of that website. You can go to the healthcare website and to indicate that you need that form. They can send it to you or you can download it.
And then so I have the physical copy, but how do I get it to free taxes?
Oh, let me show you. So we'll just say yes. And so it says you need the form 1095A. Do not file without it. And If you look up at the screen, it says here, add the 1095A, and then you'll just enter the information from it. And that's how you would put it here. You're welcome. I'm gonna go back and change this because I don't know what kind of information it's gonna ask, but. This is for student loan interest. I'm gonna put no, but if you have one, you would just indicate it and fill out the boxes. It looks like a W-2, kinda. Yeah, if you're claiming the dependent and they had student loan interest, yes, you would indicate that here. Any teachers here? Yes. So do you often have expenses from being a teacher, like you have to buy supplies? So that's an option here. You can indicate that here and claim that on your tax return. My husband's also a teacher, so I'm always filling this out every year.
On the medical expenses, would I put that for that too, or that's something different?
What do you mean?
For the insurance with the,
For the deductions? That's a good question. I don't know. It'll tell you if you can claim the premiums, but I don't think you can claim premiums, right, for your medical expenses?
Premiums for medical expenses?
workplace medical expense. It's a section on here that asks you, medical expenses, but would I claim the premium on that, or just put in, the
1095. Yeah, you just put the 1095.
It does ask you the questions about earned income tax credit, so you don't have to figure that out at all. This will do that for you. It'll even calculate it for you. That's what these questions are about. Do you have a social security number? Was your home in the U.S.? Have you received a notice from the IRS that you can't claim EITC? Were you a non-resident alien for part of 2024? Could you be a qualifying child on another person's return? Or was your earned income credit reduced or disallowed by the IRS? So I'll put no for all those. Oh look guys, we get earned income credit, $384. So we were doing, sorry, a little side story. Anybody get an electric vehicle this year? So they were offering like a $7,000 tax credit for electric vehicles for last year. And one of our other tax events, we had someone come in and he was actually gonna owe. And then he put that his electric vehicle on there, and he got a really good return. So make sure that you're keeping track of those things. If you get one of those cars to take advantage of the tax, just keep your information so that when tax time comes in, you can put it on your return. Honestly, I'm not sure. I didn't even know that they were offering it, but yeah, you would just have to check and see, like with the IRS, what they're offering, what kind of credits they're offering. Do you, brother? I mean, are you familiar with anything going on with that?
Yeah, so basically it's for electric vehicle, they allow you one-time deduction of 7,500.
Oh, so one time.
So every time you get a new electric car, you get a 7,500. Okay.
I'm not sure if I don't think the hybrids are.
Hybrid, no.
What if you buy a second-hand electric vehicle? Does that still apply?
No, new cars.
Only new cars.
We have a brother with a question.
What if you got your credit at the time of purchase? What's going to happen? If you got the 7,500 at the time of purchase?
From the dealership?
Yes.
I don't think the dealership can hand out IRS credit. So maybe they were giving you some sort of like incentive to buy, but I don't think it's the same thing. Like they couldn't, the dealership can't hand you an IRS credit, if that makes sense.
Okay.
They probably are like, oh, electric vehicle will give you more money off, but I don't think that they can.
Got you. Okay, thank you. Then secondly, if you installed a wall charger, do you get any credit for that, for the electric vehicle?
I'm sorry, I'm not really familiar with the tax laws.
No, I'm not sure about that, but I think maybe this one helps with that. So
This
I'm
is
not sure.
energy for the home,
Okay,
but let's see if it comes up, yeah.
$600. Yeah, sorry, I'm not
Okay.
sure.
So, sister,
Yes,
so if there is a Tesla for $50,000 today, we pay $50,000 and buy. If we buy a Tesla for $50,000 today, and it says that $7,000 would be, a deduction on taxes. So when I file the taxes, I'll be only paying $43,000 for the car. Is that how it works, or is that $7,000 taken out from my tax bracket? Like,
yeah, it's off of your tax liability. So, I mean,
so I guess what I'm trying to ask is that car gonna cost me 43 grand after I file the taxes next year?
if
Like-
if you get a refund of $7,000, you could look at it that way, but it's not necessarily, no, you're still gonna pay that amount that you pay for the car, and then your tax liability will be reduced, or you'll get a refund based off of that
Understood.
purchase that you made.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So you know how you just told us about this deal the IRS has going on? Where can we find out about other like deals the IRS has going on? Is it just the IRS website?
That's what I would say. I don't know another place. When the gentleman came to us for another tax event we were doing, like, I had to go on the IRS website and look it up just so that I could know what he was talking about, because I didn't know about it before. So I'm not sure. As a CPA, is there some way they can like stay updated with tax related information or new tax breaks and stuff like that?
So in terms of tax deductions and all that, most of the softwares will guide you. You just need to be reading a bit more deeply.
I think
they
what she
will-
means is like outside of tax season, how do we know what kinds of things?
Okay, so outside of the tax season, for example, myself, I subscribe to the IRS newsletter, and they keep on sending out newsletters for any deductions or any things which they allow. So that helps you to keep in line with the new tax changes. For example, we're expecting one soon now, a new tax change. So it would be helpful, because even at the time when the tax bill is released, not everyone knows what's happening. They have to study for quite some time, and then as the information goes down, flows through, that's when people understand, and that's when IRS releases the newsletters.
My question is, so I had one of the errors. It's a form that's called a 8862 that must be presented with the return on earned income credits indicators. So I'm having a difficult problem with that document there. I know it's an IRS document, but I don't see why do I have to, is it necessary for me to have to file this document? And this is like what's rejecting my return at this point.
So the 8862, I know that's a form for earned income credit disallowance. So if the IRS is making you file that, you just have to file it to claim that. Like, it's not really an option. You have to file it because they said so. It's like a because they said so kind of thing. I don't know. Any other questions? If you have childcare related expenses, you can indicate that here. I'll put no. These are other common deductions and credits, IRA contributions, college tuition expenses. Back when I first started using this website, it used to ask us those questions like you couldn't escape it, but now it's like you only have to click on it if it applies, so that's very convenient. That's nice. Does anybody have any questions about any of these before I move on?
I've downloaded it on my PDF file, so I have to fill it out. Now, my thing is like, okay, I got it from the IRS website, so I fill it out, but now how do I import it back to the free taxes and get that.
Do you have your device with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you start like filling it out? Because I believe that it'll allow you, but I'm just not sure because I've never
Okay.
dealt with the form, but I believe it will allow you to fill out the form in this software.
Okay.
And then send it with your return with you so you don't have to do anything separate.
Okay.
But if you can get it started, before we go, I mean, I'm gonna be here for a little bit, I can
Yeah.
take a look and, inshallah, just make sure everything's okay.
Okay, I had got the rejection with TurboTax, but I went in to do it here on the free taxes, so I'm kind of like,
That's perfectly fine. They rejected it, they didn't accept it. So
Okay.
it's okay. And you can get your return rejected like 3 or 4 times before they're like, now you have to send it in the mail. So no worries, even if it gets rejected again, you'll still be okay. Inshallah.
Sister Mona.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum
My
salam.
question is regarding, I'm claiming my mom as a dependent on my tax returns,
Okay.
and there's a question that just popped up. Says like whether both of us had health insurance. What should I do in case where I had health insurance but my mom did not have health insurance at all?
That's a good question. That's definitely a CPA question because I believe they're trying to charge, right? Like it's a penalty if someone doesn't have insurance?
No, not anymore.
Oh, okay. So yeah, but just indicate she doesn't
It
have
used to
insurance.
when the Obamacare started.
It just asks whether yes or no. So in my case, it's a yes, and in her case, it's a no.
Okay, just put no because it's asking for both of you, right? So I would just answer it right, and then if it needs your information, it'll ask another question later on. But if it doesn't, then I wouldn't worry.
Okay, guys, I just did yes in my case, so I'll just see if it asks me anything else. But thank you.
You're welcome. But it asked for you and your mom, right? It said, did you and mom have health insurance? Was that the question?
Yeah, the question was, did you or any of your dependents had health insurance throughout the year 2024? And I did, but
Oh,
she
so yes.
did not.
So yeah, that would be correct. Okay. I think I was thinking about it the opposite way, but okay. Yeah, that sounds right.
Does that include Medicare?
Yeah, that's health insurance. So you would be able to put yes if you had Medicare. Other deductions. Oh, here's that clean vehicle. Let's see. Clean vehicle credit. If you click on the question mark sometimes, okay, it says, if you became the owner of a new plug-in electric vehicle or fuel cell vehicle in 2024, you may be able to claim a credit up to $7,500. You can check these qualifications to see if you qualify for this credit. So it has a lot of helpful stuff on here. And the forms to file also, if you need to file the form with it. Does anybody have any questions about this stuff? I went kind of fast. Let me start up. So the health savings account, medical savings account, qualified adoption expenses, credit for elderly or disabled. I'm not too familiar with this one.
I think there should be one more for the used electric vehicles. The question was asked by the brother. There should be a $4,000 credit for that as well. But it probably should come into one of those menus. But yes, the new would be 7,500, old would be 4,000.
It didn't come up for vehicle and fuel. We have the clean alternate fuel. Let's see, is this it? Alternate fuel vehicle.
Those would be different types of vehicles. But if it doesn't have that, that's okay. But maybe somebody can research that. But I'm pretty sure it should. I think it should be 4,000 for used electric vehicles. That's okay. We can move forward. Thank you.
Okay, let me just see. Can someone look it up for me and see if they're still offering it? Because if so, then we need to find out what form. They usually will have the form on here. But if they don't, I think that's something we need to let people know, not to use this if it can't help us. But they could have also taken the credit away too. So, do you know about that? Are they still offering the used one? The used electric vehicle credit? Oh, okay. Okay. Brother Amin's going to check on that, and I'll move forward. But that's a good question. If they have it and it's not available here, we want to make sure we let people know that. Okay. That's just a summary of all the credits. we're basically finished. Everything else is miscellaneous. So if you made estimated payments, identity protection PIN, all those kinds of things, just miscellaneous stuff that normally don't apply. But there is something important that I wanted to, at the end, talk to you guys about. You can do the maximize my refund. From personal experience, they are gonna ask you questions that they've already asked you. It's not gonna hurt, but they've already asked you those questions. So I just,
Yeah, so the 4,000 still applies.
okay. So what would that be under? You see, because it didn't even give us that option here. Let me go back.
Can you search for it?
Clean vehicle credits. Oh, it's right here. Okay. So it didn't come up on the automatic one, but when I searched under the credits, it's right here. If you bought a new or used plug-in hybrid, you may qualify for the credit, and then you would just enter the vehicle information here. So thank you, brother, for indicating that. And it is also available here, so I thought we had to like toss this. We don't. Alhamdulillah. Yes, ma'am.
So the S corp, like if you file that, then you don't have to do a separate tax for S corporation?
That's not correct. Actually, brother, she has a question about S corp. She said if you file the S corp on your personal tax, you don't have to file a business one. That was the question. Is that right?
Yeah, like do you have to file taxes as S corporation and then also independently as? Okay. And can you do the S corporation taxes through Free Tax USA?
Yes. Do you want to go look at that form?
Sure.
Okay.
If we have time or if anybody.
Yeah. Real quick, I'll just go look at the business S corp income Schedule K. So did you see how I got to that? Okay. I just wanted to show you that, how easy it is, right under the income. So we'll go back. And the last thing that I wanted to make sure, because we pretty much went over all the important things about this, but just to, I'll continue to state, let's look at this because it'll tell us how lucky we are. Was Texas your residence? Yes. Yes, all year. Yes, I made my money in Texas. So it says, good news, you don't require to file a state tax return. Oh, guys, we're getting $584. So at the end, this is what I wanted to show you guys, because whenever you file your tax return, especially since you, inshallah, you're going to be doing it on your own, you're not going to be paying someone else to do it, you're going to need to make a PIN, create a PIN. So let's see. See if the amount due 0 because this is free. I'm going to say check in the mail because this is fake, but of course you will want to put direct deposit if you can, if you have banking information, that's the quickest way. I've never used, or I don't know anyone that has used the Go to Bank debit card, but I think that's a cool option if you don't have a bank account. They'll give you a debit card and put your refund onto the debit card. Again, I've never used it, so I can't recommend it or anything. Okay. Okay, that's great. The Social Security number I did put was invalid. It was like all one, so it's not going to let me go. So that's actually a really good thing. But so I can't get to that other screen. But on the next screen, it's going to, before you submit your tax return, it's going to say create a PIN. You can make the PIN whatever you want. It's a 5-digit number, but I always, I'll say it again, always make it the same thing, because so you don't forget. And I always make it the last 5 digits of my Social Security number. Why? Because I don't know. Because no one else will know that, and yeah. And if you don't have that information, you're going to need your last year's gross income, your adjusted gross income from last year for the future. So it's just always better to make a PIN So you have it and you can file your tax return for the next year. Yes?
So I was looking into the S corporation before, and I heard some things like you should. Some people said, oh, the IRS like looks at it to make sure you're not just doing tax evasion. So like say if I do 1099 contract work, but then I want to be able to deduct some of the taxes, some of the show my income is less, and like have my own retirement plan through the S corporation. Is that considered tax evasion, or is that legitimate?
So you're saying. So you're saying that you have an S corp, and you're also getting a 1099.
Yeah, like say, so I want to become a 1099 contractor, and then I was thinking of forming an S corp so that I could pay myself benefits, like the the employee max amount for retirement is like I think 69,000 versus where individually I can only contribute like much less. So I wanted to maximize the amount I could deduce. But I just wondered, is that considered tax evasion? Because some people have said if you're forming the S corp for the sole reason of like deducting your total income, then like what's considered tax evasion versus like a legitimate need for an S corp?
So let's say that, I mean, there has to be like a separation, number one, between you and your employer. So what I noticed is they ask a question if the S corp is now working for the past employer. So let's say you're working for an employer and now you formed an S corp. So are you just working solely for that employer? And that's basically a qualification they look at. And in terms of the general rule, you are still liable for paying taxes. So yes, you could form an S corp, but now the S corp has to go through certain loops. For example, you have to invoice, you have to raise an invoice, you have to register, you have to maintain all those documentation. So yes, you can do that. It's not considered tax evasion, unless is that let's say you're getting a salary from there and just putting it here as an S corp, but you're still ending up paying the W-2. You know what I'm saying? So look, for example, let's say I'm working for an employer. Now,
Like as a 1099 or a W-2?
W-2, and then I say, okay, this W-2, I will treat it as an income in the S corp. So I already paid the taxes. So now what I do with my taxes here is my problem. I mean with my money, because it's net of any tax. So the tax has already been paid to the IRS. Now the S corp has to have a purpose. So basically, what's the purpose of the S corp? Or what is it doing to generate income?
I guess I'll ask you maybe privately. Is there a way to talk to you guys like after this? Get in touch with you?
Yes, sure.
How do I log in? I'm sorry, I let it lock up. Oh yeah, that was it. We can't get to that last screen because I made up a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, just making sure you have your PIN. You know what your PIN is when to file your return. Does anybody have any questions? Yes. Are you on the last screen? I can come over there to help. Before I do that though, does anyone else have any questions? Yes, sir.
On a joint return, maybe I'll just speak loudly anyway. On a joint return, it should ask for a Form 8879 for consent of the spouse. Does the form do that, or is it required?
I've only seen that when like people file paper returns. I've never seen, like my husband and I, we've been filing joint since '08 and we've never,
When you're filing a joint return, the spouse and the filer,
I don't think it's required. I think it's an option, but it's not required because they don't make you do that on this. Yeah. Anybody else have any other questions? I really do appreciate y'all listening to me. I'm not a professional, I'm not a good talker, but I just want to help. So inshallah, this was beneficial to you. And please do not hesitate to let us know, myself, Bushra, or Brother Amin, if you guys have any questions. Thank you again. Why, yeah.
Can I get that contact information?
Yeah, I'll provide that. Actually, yeah, if you, we have a.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so the question was if they can have a contact information for us, for our group with the CPAs. Yes, we have a sign-up sheet at our sohbah table. So please give us your information and we'll contact you on that, or we'll share it on there. So I hope the personal and the individual. I hope the personal and the individual was helpful for everybody. Now I'd like to invite Brother Amin for the next portion of this workshop, which covers the small business or business related or a little bit more complicated tax filing situations, which is covered on another website. It's called Tax Act. It's also an open demo, so please feel free to ask any questions during the demo. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum once again. Okay, so we'll use Tax Act now. I've not used this for long, but so we'll go again. We'll go through it together. It will give us a chance to learn it together.
The email we can use is muslimvolunteerservices@gmail.com.
Muslim volunteer.
So now we are gonna sign up for Tax Act. Does anybody need help signing up? We're gonna be. You can sign up. While we're doing this.
Well, why should they sign up for Tax Act?
This is for complicated tax filing. The first demo was for personal or individual, which is simple tax filing.
So we select the business type. So let's say it's an S Corp. Now, when we are doing the return, at any time we need some help. We have these tools here, help or get live tax advice. They can help us with that. So now we are logged in and we are trying to form the business. So let's say Muslim.
Muslim volunteer services.
Okay, so if you have a DBA name, we fill that in, otherwise we just continue. And then we put the address. And then we have the EIN number, which is the social security for the corporation, basically.
I think most of the people here are not personal, they might not be interested.
So, we okay?
Yeah, and after this, we'll be done. Yes, and after this demo, we'll be done, inshallah, around 5 p.m.
So let's say we're doing tax preparation services. So we select that, it gives a code. So they ask us for the method, accounting method, cash, accrual, other method. So basically that's defined by what the S Corp does. So this is when the S Corp decided to get, the organization became an S Corp based on information from IRS. So now these are the standard questions they take us through, because these are the questions which help fill the form. So as a brother was asking about HNR block. So they have the same kind of steps to fill in, which populate the tax return for both individuals as well as an S corp. So we leave it very simple for now. So they want to know if we filed with the IRS as an S corp. Yes, and then we just continue.
Is the previous year's filing information available on irs.gov?
As a transcript, yes. So basically, you log into the IRS website, you go to transcript, and you should be able to download the transcript for last year. So we're done with the housekeeping in terms of information about the organization. Now we come to the normal inputs, as in we need to add income, just like the personal tax return. Just fill in the amounts. So let's say we made 100,000. Returns and allowance is 0, so we just continue. So we have 100,000 in terms of income, and then they're asking us if we have any other income. Let's say we have none, and then we just do continue. So now the returns basically are more geared towards the final figure in terms of calculation, whether we have to pay tax or not. So let's say repairs is 2,000, no bad debts or rent. Let's say rent we paid 10,000 for the business, and that's it, let's say. So now this is asking if they have any other officers in the organization, and we say no, because what will happen is this information will then flow to the personal tax return. So let's say there was compensation of 50,000 and no salaries and wages, and then then if we incurred any startup costs, whether to start and when we pay the fees, basically when we form an organization, we have to pay some fees to the local state, and we can add all that information here. Now this one is asking us about any assets or any amortization of software or any goodwill which we incurred, and this one is for the vehicles. So basically what they want to allow us depreciation. Any asset we used to generate the revenue, they're allowing us the depreciation because it lost value during the year. So we can claim that as a deduction on the tax return for an organization. So depreciation is, each asset has its own class of depreciation. For example, computers are depreciated more highly or at a higher rate than let's say furniture, because they depreciate faster. So when we classify the assets, then they allow us different amount of depreciation for each particular asset. Then they give us, basically they are highlighting for us what kind of fees we may have incurred in our business, so that we can deduct those expenses as well. Now this one is the Schedule K. So this is where the organization profit flows now to the individuals, to the members of the organization. So it asks us whether we want to complete, because once this is completed, it's submitted to the IRS, and the Schedule K is given to the member, who will add it to their own personal tax return, showing the distribution of profits and or expenses. Yeah, so for tax purposes, a balance sheet is not required. And then a final wrap-up. So it tells us the ordinary income, which this income then goes to the particular shareholder. So if it's one shareholder, the whole amount of 38,000 flows to that particular shareholder. And if it's two, then it splits. So in a similar manner, each person gets their own K1 schedule. So the idea here is that all these tax softwares are actually easy as we follow through the commands of what they want. And if we don't have any information, or we need someone for more information, we can always click on help, and we can search and we can get more information from there. with the corporate tax as well.